Hello everyone. Welcome to the series on GS Mains 2019 discussions. Now, as a part of special series, as you're aware, we have started discussing a number of mains questions which have appeared in 2019 examination. The objective of this entire discussion is not only to tell you about the sources of information but also to give you a guidance with respect to approach in terms of answer writing. So, this entire series must be seen with respect to your answer writing abilities, as in this entire series, each one of us has tried to give you certain important aspects as to what should be written when a question is asked on a particular issue. As we have already said, that any answer will totally depend on the nature or demand of the question, and each of these question there would be certain issues as well as certain keywords highlighted in that question, as those keywords are the guiding pillars for us to write a particular answer. Now today we have taken this particular question which appeared in the GS paper 4. The question is, there is a view that Official Secrets Act is an obstacle to the implementation of Right to Information Act. Do you agree with the view? Discuss. Now, as you can see that this particular question was asked in 10 marks and you had to write this particular answer in 150 words. So, your answer should not only be confined within this limit of 150 words but should also discuss every important aspects being asked in this particular question. Now, this topic on Official Secrets Act and RTI was covered comprehensively in all the three aspects, that is, in DNS videos, in Focus magazines, as well as in Mains Compass of 2019 in the Polity and Governance section. So, first of all, let us understand that what should be the answer structure, and then we'll try to see that what has been covered in DNS, Focus, as well as Mains Compass. Now, the question says that there is a view that the Official Secrets Act is an obstacle to the implementation of Right to Information Act. So, few words becomes important here. Now, this topic was important as news appeared around March and April, specifically with respect to Official Secrets Act, with respect to the Rafale's pricing, as government argued that the pricing of Rafale is a part of secret information under Official Secrets Act and hence cannot be disclosed through RTI. So, with respect to the answer structure, the answer must have mentioned about the contradictory nature of Official Secrets Act and RTI, as Official Secrets Act limits the flow of information, whereas the Right to Information Act mandates automatic free flow of information on various government documents. However, there are certain provisions in RTI which specifically says that in certain cases RTI shall have an overriding effect over the Official Secrets Act. So this aspect must be mentioned in your answer. And this aspect was also highlighted in one of the observation of Supreme Court in the Rafale jet arguments. So effectively you can say that despite certain provisions in the RTI Act which gives an overriding impact over the Official Secrets Act, still these provisions mostly act as an exception with respect to OSA, that is Official Secrets Act, and hence the view that Official Secrets Act is an obstacle is mostly correct, as government under Official Secrets Act can withhold important information with respect to state security or national security. And you can conclude your answer in the end by giving recommendations of Second Administrative Reform Commission as well as the recommendation of Justice Goswami Committee. So, having understood about the background with respect to answer structure, let us go through the different sources such as DNS, Focus, as well as Compass to understand that what we had covered specifically with respect to Official Secrets Act. Now, as you can see, the topic of Official Secrets Act 1923 was discussed in the Daily News Simplified video of 8th March 2019, where we discussed about Official Secrets Act and its use against the press. And this discussion was in the backdrop of Rafale case. Now, in this discussion, Section 5 of Official Secrets Act 1923 was also highlighted, which criminalizes voluntarily receiving as well as possessing such documents if given in contravention of the act. That is, this particular act makes both possessing as well as transferring of state secrets or any secret information as per Official Secrets Act a criminal offense. Further, we also mentioned that the Law Commission report of 1971 said that the wordings with respect to Official Secrets Act is quite wide. So these were the important aspects which were discussed with respect to Official Secrets Act of 1923. Now, in the same month of March, on 15th, another news appeared with respect to the Supreme Court's observation, which said that RTI trumps Official Secrets Act. The point which we have already mentioned with respect to RTI with respect to OSA. So, here in this analysis, we discussed the various provisions of RTI according to which certain aspects of RTI overrides the clauses of Official Secrets Act. And in this video, it was pointed out that Supreme Court in the Rafale case mentioned three provisions of Right to Information Act, which clearly overrides the Official Secrets Act in certain situations. These provisions are Section 22, Section 24, and Section 8, Clause 2. Now, Section 22 of the RTI Act says that RTI will have an overriding effect over the Official Secrets Act of 1923, whereas Section 24 mandates every security and intelligence organizations to disclose information with respect to corruption as well as human rights violation. Further, Section 8, Clause 2 of the RTI Act compelled the government to disclose information if public interest in disclosure outweighs the harm to protected interest. So, this section meant that any secret information under Official Secrets Act could be disclosed under RTI if there was certain public interest involved. So, on all these factors, RTI clearly overrode the provisions of Official Secrets Act. Now, with respect to Official Secrets Act, it was discussed that the Act deals with two aspects primarily, that is, spying or espionage and disclosure of secret information of the government. Now, it is the authority or it is the discretion of the government to declare any information as secret information under the Official Secrets Act. So, this secret information can be any official code, password, sketch, plan, model, article, note, document, or information. Now, this classification of secret information as per the Official Secrets Act is quite wide or quite broad. So, it is argued that this colonial law is in direct conflict with Right to Information Act. The exact provision which was asked by UPSC in the mains examination was actually discussed in the DNS dated 15th March 2019, specifically with respect to Official Secrets Act and RTI, and the same was also covered in the April 2019 edition of the Focus magazine, where it mentioned that with respect to revelations on Rafale by the Hindu, the Official Secrets Act 1923 was in news, where it was alleged by the government that documents on the deal was stolen from the Ministry of Defense and published. And according to the government, this constituted a criminal offense under Official Secrets Act of 1923. So, mentioning about this aspect why it was in news, we stated that let us now understand that how Official Secrets Act 1923 became a subject of arguments on Rafale deal and also its contradiction with Right to Information Act 2005. So exactly the same aspects which we had covered in our DNS videos. Now, even in Focus magazine, we covered about section 3 of OSA as well as section 5, which we had also discussed in the DNS video, including the concept of secret information. Now, another aspect discussed in Focus magazine was with respect to Second Press Commission. Now, here, recommendation of two committee becomes important. One is that of Justice Goswami Committee and the other is that of Justice K.K. Mathew Committee. Now, Justice Goswami Committee recommended to immediately repeal the Official Secrets Act 1923, but this report was never published. Now, during this time, Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India, so she constituted another committee chaired by Justice K.K. Mathew, where Justice K.K. Mathew did not recommend the repeal of Official Secrets Act of 1923. Now, even the Second Administrative Reform Commission recommended that Official Secrets Act should be repealed, and this particular act shall be subsumed or substituted by a chapter in the National Security Act. It further highlights that this report of Second ARC is based on Law Commission's report of 1971, which we had discussed in the first DNS of 8th March 2019, where the Law Commission in its report said that the definition of secret information under Official Secret Act is quite wide. However, after considering these reports, the government ultimately decided not to repeal the Official Secrets Act. Further, the Focus magazine also covered about the Supreme Court observations with respect to Official Secrets Act as well as RTI, where Supreme Court mentioned about Section 22, Section 24 as well as Section 8 Clause 2 of RTI Act, which we have already discussed through the DNS videos. Now, this whole topic of Official Secrets Act 1923 was again covered in the mains compass of polity and governance, where we not only mentioned this act with respect to freedom of press, but also with respect to arguments of Attorney General of India. So, this particular matter with respect to Official Secrets Act was very much in news, and we had tried to cover every important aspect with respect to both Official Secrets Act and right to information. And accordingly, a question was asked in GS paper 4 with respect to probity in governance. Now, after discussing about Official Secrets Act as well as RTI and why was it in news, let us again focus on answer structure. That is, the answer which must be written according to this particular question. Now, you must understand that this question was of 10 marks and must be written in 150 words. So, in such a question, you have very limited words whereby you need to express all the important aspects of a particular question. So you can introduce your answer straight away by coming to the point with respect to contradiction between Right to Information Act as well as Official Secrets Act, as Right to Information Act allows free flow of information, whereas Official Secrets Act withholds certain information which are considered as secret information or which are important for national security. Now, in your body, you must discuss that how Official Secrets Act is acting as an obstacle with respect to Right to Information Act, or are there any provisions under the RTI Act which overrides the OSA? And finally, you can conclude in a balanced way by stating certain recommendations of certain committees. So you can straight away introduce by saying that Right to Information Act empowers the people with access to information, whereas the British era Official Secrets Act empowers the government to withhold any information which the government thinks is detrimental to national security. Further, it mentions that there have been certain occasions where the government has misused the act, that is Official Secrets Act, to declare official documents as secrets to prevent its disclosure under RTI. And this was the point raised in the question as well. Now, coming to the body of the answer, you can straight away highlight that there are certain provisions in the RTI which effectively overrides the Official Secrets Act. And you can also write that this was also observed by the Supreme Court in the Rafale case. Now, the point is that despite these provisions under RTI, these provisions mostly act as an exception, as the authority to declare the secret information lies mostly with the government. So, it is the discretion of the government to declare any information or any document as a secret information, and such declaration has no time limit. That is, once a public document is declared as secret information under Official Secrets Act, then it remains so till or until the government revokes such an order. So, there are certain procedural aspects as well with respect to declaring certain information as secret, because such an authority is at the total discretion of the government. So, after stating these, you can conclude by saying that both transparency as well as national security are important and vital for Indian democracy. So, a balance needs to be maintained between both the acts, that is Right to Information Act as well as Official Secrets Act. And this can be done by repealing and subsuming Official Secrets Act within the fold of National Security Act, as was recommended by Second Administrative Reform Commission as well as Goswami Committee. So we understand that we have incorporated almost every important aspects with respect to this question in a given word limit. So, while writing an answer, you must address the demand of the question as well as you must be within your word limits. So, these are some of the important aspects with respect to this particular question on Official Secrets Act and Right to Information Act. With this, we come to an end to today's discussion. We have also uploaded this sample answer in your PDF.